What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. Today, we're going to talk about networking. Yeah, networking! It's a thing. If you're allergic to networking, don't X out of this episode. It is still for you. Let me clarify that I'm not talking about those stuffy, awkward, meet and greet type networking meetings that sound a little something like this. Okay, so I work with all kinds of clients: anxiety, depression, trauma, substance abuse, ADHD, autism, adults, kids, couples, groups. I've worked in schools, the criminal justice system, and hospitals. So if you know of anyone who might be a good fit for my specialty, here's my card and feel free to send folks my way. Honestly, I personally can't stand those types of meetings. It's nothing against the meetings themselves or the people there, but for me, I just immediately become a version of myself that I don't love. Awkward Marie has arrived in the chat, and I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. I mean, so many of us are allergic to these networking meetings, mixers, meet and greets. Personally, I don't think I've ever received a referral from a meeting like that. I don't think I've ever made any kind of meaningful connection, partly because I'm showing up in such an awkward state, and I think other people are doing the same oftentimes as well. So then we're just all in this awkward scenario together where we're all coming with our walls up and not really getting to see each other for who we really are. But just because all of that might be true, I don't think the solution is to throw networking out the window. We just need a better approach to networking. So in this episode, I'm going to share some of my own takes on the do's and don'ts of networking. Yes, to fill your practice, but also to make meaningful connections. Maybe find a friend, maybe find a colleague that you can consult with. So it's not just about filling your practice, but about connecting with others in a meaningful way. Now, before I dive into the do's and don'ts, I want to preface by saying, I don't actually believe there's a wrong way to do networking. If you're really into those mixer, meet and greet type networking meetings, I fully support you. I just think there's a lot of folks who spend a lot of energy trying to lean into those things because they think that's what they're supposed to do, but they actually hate every minute of it, or it just feels like you're putting in so much energy for very little fruit. And so if that's you, I'm going to offer some tools to help streamline your networking process so that your efforts are much more fruitful. Okay, so let's dive into some of the do's and don'ts of effective networking. First, know what you bring to the table. Whether you're looking to fill your practice through networking or if you're just trying to make a friend, saying something like, "Hi, I'm a therapist looking for other therapists," just isn't specific enough. Even if you're not clear on things like what your specialties, your niche are, to have a clear sense of you as a person. What are your passions? What are the things that you get really excited about? What are some kind of key pieces of your life story that have shaped your experiences? And certainly it is really helpful if you are aware of things like your therapy niche, your specialties, and other kind of professional attributes as well that are specific to you. Definitely connect with those, know what those are, and have those with you before you meet another therapist. My second networking tip is to know what you're looking for. If your singular goal is to just get people to refer to you, you're going to face an uphill battle. Here's my specialty. Send me clients, please. It's not particularly memorable, compelling, or trust building. And when professionals refer to each other, we refer to people who we trust. So if we see networking as an opportunity to build our trustworthy circles of professionals and therapists, that's only going to benefit us on every level. And yes, if we have a genuine connection with those people, they're going to refer to us and we're going to refer to them also. So rather than asking who can refer clients to you, I encourage you to ask the question of what is it that you're looking for from these networking relationships? Are you really looking to make therapist friends, or maybe colleagues that you can consult with as needed, or maybe other professionals in the community that'd be really helpful to have connections with? Then once you have a sense of who you are and what kind of connection you're wanting to make when you network with other folks, then you can get to know what sorts of folks you want to connect with. This is the part where we actually try to identify people that you're wanting to connect with. And there's no need to rush and email blast all of those people as soon as you find them. Just take your time with it. Make a list as you go and just kind of get a sense of who's out there. What kinds of folks would it make sense for me to connect with, given some of these things that I'm looking for. In addition to doing Google searches and asking around in your existing networks, you might find it helpful to explore social media, like social media hashtags, or if there's something like a specific Facebook group for the type of professional or type of therapist specialty that you're focused on, things like that, you might be able to sort of niche down in where you're doing your searches. All right, at this point, you might be thinking, all right, cool, I got my list. Now I just go reach out to them. But not all forms of reaching out are created equal. The way that you reach out to somebody you're trying to network with is so important. With that said, my next tip is to make an authentic elevator pitch. Listen, I know that phrase elevator pitch sounds salesy, and we were just talking about how important it is to make authentic, genuine connections. So why are we doing this salesy marketing thing? I would suggest that we see the elevator pitch as our streamlined format for making genuine connections. It's so important that you find a relatively brief yet specific and accurate way to present yourself to somebody who may be a complete stranger and might be wondering, like, why should I give this person the time of day? So the elevator pitch allows us to present ourselves in a way that feels authentic, is specific, but is also brief, so that somebody might actually take a moment to read that email or listen to that voicemail or however you might be reaching out and say, okay, I can read 3 sentences of an email to see what's going on here. Most people, when they present themselves in a networking pitch, will have a rather lengthy message. If, let's say, it's an email to somebody they've never met, I get these emails and they're often minimum 3 paragraphs long. As soon as I open an email and I see that it's multiple paragraphs long, I just simply don't have the time to read all of those emails. And unfortunately, I X out of them. And another characteristic that tends to come through in these types of messages, aside from them being rather lengthy, is they tend to be very focused on the person writing the email. Here's my background, here's my passion, here's my story, my experiences, and very little about, like, here's where the two of us could meet together. That piece is also missing most of the time from these types of emails. And I'm saying emails, but I see this in my DMs on Instagram, like anywhere that people reach out to each other and connect. It's kind of the same thing. The messages that I respond to tend to just be a few sentences long and are very specific and to the point. They're going to emphasize, this is who I am, this is why I'm reaching out, and here's how I think the two of us make sense to connect together. Okay, so how do you make an effective, authentic elevator pitch? First, name something specific that's personal to you. Name something specific about the person or organization you're reaching out to that kind of makes it obvious why you're reaching out to them, and then be specific about what kind of connection you're wanting to make together. So here's an example of what not to do, something non-specific. Hi, I'm a fellow therapist in San Diego specializing in depression. I'd love to connect. Though this message is brief, it's really not clear what sorts of things we might connect on aside from being in the same geographical area, and it's not really clear what it is that they want from me when they're asking to connect. So when you're making your elevator pitch, you're making it specific both about yourself and the other person that you're reaching out to and what type of connection you want to have together. Given that I'm a therapist who specializes in working with folks who feel marginalized by the church, if I were reaching out to another therapist who, let's say, had a similar specialty as I do, I might write an email that sounds something like this. Hello, so-and-so. I'm a fellow progressive Christian therapist in San Diego. I was so excited to see that you specialize in working with LGBTQ Christian couples because I often have trouble finding folks with similar specialties as me. If you're available, I'd love to connect over coffee or Zoom just to hear more about what you do and also to connect in general. And I hope I'm conveying something that's important to me in this episode, that it's not just about filling your practice to me. Like, I really think that our profession in general would do well with stronger connections, therapists being more interconnected in general, not being so lonely, not being so isolated. Like, let's be friends. Is it a byproduct that you get more referrals through networking as a result? Absolutely. Is it still possible to fill your practice through networking alone? Absolutely, I do know people who have filled their practice through networking. So all of these things are all benefits, but it's not just about like, how do I get more clients? And it's more about like, how do I be a healthy person in this ecosystem of our profession? And before we close, I'd like to thank TherapyNotes for sponsoring this video. TherapyNotes helps with all of your practice management needs, from scheduling to notes to billing. They make the process of keeping track of your notes streamlined, and they have a HIPAA-secure telehealth platform. If you'd like to check out TherapyNotes, you can get 2 months to try it for free with no commitment just by clicking the link in the description of this video. Well, thank you for hanging with me in this episode. I realized it had been a little while since we talked about networking, and I actually love networking when we do it in the way that I talked about in this episode. Let me know in the comments if you would add to these tips, if there's any tools you've struck upon that make networking more effective, more successful for you. And until next time, from one therapist to another, I wish you well. Excuse me.